Hello and welcome to 100% Real with Ruby. Today, it's as real as we get. We're going back probably into your current experiences with dieting. If you're struggling to stick to the plan to see results, if you feel like it is such a grind to lose fat that it has to be this really hard endeavor, or that you only make progress when you're being super strict. Kim is one of my long-term clients, and she's been with me for like 7, 8 years. And before she came to me, we were just having a conversation before I clicked record. It's funny that the thing that she finds most easiest to get in now is carbs, and the hardest thing is protein, which protein requires prepping. It requires planning ahead. It's very hard for you to just grab protein on the go if you aren't planning ahead for it. But the thing that hit me when I heard that is from someone who thought that carbs were going to make her fat. She had to earn her carbs. White bread, wait, even fruit. But I heard grapes are bad. Like these demonizing things where don't carrots have too much sugar? It's almost like we're brainwashed to believe that unless we're eating in this really clean, super strict way, or unless we're eating abysmal amounts of calories, we're not going to get to where we want to be. It was that, and it was also where you were scrutinizing every little part of your body to the point where I stopped the progress photos and we went to gym selfies because it was such this rigid approach that just made you hate every part of it. But I'm going to let you explain what that was like, what was going through your mind before you came to me, and why you came to me in the first place.
Oh, that's a long story. So I've always been into fitness and health, nutrition, whatever, to some degree, more so when I was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes when I was 20 years old. I'm 38 now. So that kind of started me on my journey for fitness, nutrition. And that started to propel me to like, well, one of the great byproducts of this is going to be I'm going to look fit and I'm going to feel really confident, yada, yada. And so I started just kind of tiptoeing into the gym, and I didn't know how to do anything. So it was a lot of cardio and a lot of, pointless exercises on those machines that help you do the work for you. And it's, not putting any effort into it. Eventually, I found a personal trainer in a gym where I live now. And before this, I'd been getting a lot of my information from the internet, from women's health magazines, nothing that was actually helpful. So I was like, well, I'm going to talk to somebody that's actually done this stuff. So personal trainer, that's the way. And I started talking to this personal trainer, and she turned out to be a total nut job. Knowing that, I know that now from talking to you, like she's the one that she would say, oh, you feel like you're gaining weight? Well, it's got to be the bananas. Stop eating bananas. You feel like you're gaining weight? Well, quit eating yogurt. It's definitely the yogurt. Just stuff like that. And so little by little, the more I talked to her and tried to get information, like my world was getting smaller and smaller and smaller as to what I feel like I could eat and actually make progress with what I was doing. And again, it was just a very cardio heavy thing. Weights were not emphasized. Yada, yada. And so years and years and years down this road, and I've made zero progress. If anything, I've gained weight. I hate eating. I hate life because, food is such a big part of life. And if you're eating, 5 meals a day and it's just nothing but vegetables and chicken breasts, I mean, nobody likes that. So I'm like desperate to find something that works. And so on Facebook actually is where I found you. People have been asking, who's the best personal trainer to go to? And it was just like Ruby came up constantly. So I was like, okay, I know this is going to cost some money, but I'm desperate. I'm willing to try it. And I thank God, Ruby, I found you. And that it wasn't another repeat of the trainer I'd had before, telling me to stop eating carrots and to stop eating yogurt and to stop eating bananas. And yeah, I was a basket case when I first started with you because I'd had all these ideas ingrained over many, many years about you want to lose weight, you want to do it like the bodybuilders, you got to cut out all the carbs, you got to do cardio for 3 hours a day. And so when you gave me a food plan and a training program that didn't have that crap in it, I was like, okay, maybe this is the nut bar. Like, there's no way this is going to work. She's got all this carbs in my diet. She's got like no cardio. Like, there's no way this is going to work. But I didn't have a choice in my mind at that time. Like, trust the process. I might as well give it a go and see what happens. And the longer I've been with you, the more that there's been this brain cleanup of all these prior mindsets of, carbs being the enemy and cardio is the only way to lose fat. And we have gone from thinking that I'm not going to make progress unless I cut out carbs and only do cardio to like, I freaking hate cardio. I never do cardio unless it's like walking the dogs. And yeah, all I want to eat is carbs, and I don't have two thoughts about eating carbs anymore. It's like my go-to. I love it. You try and take my bread away from me, I will cut you. Even down to the little things like getting on a scale. I would weigh myself almost every day before we started working together and would just obsess over the numbers. And I haven't weighed myself in years other than when I go to the doctor's office, and it's never a thought in my mind anymore. So it's really gone from being this prison I thought I was just going to be stuck in for the rest of my life if I wanted to be fit and if I wanted to be healthy and if I wanted to feel confident in my body. And now it's like the most freeing thing ever, where it just doesn't occupy my mind the way it used to. So
that is a huge contrast from when you said that your world was getting smaller and smaller. It's almost like this freedom, but I feel like it's that initial part that is, well, I need to trust the process, which it was a little bit easier back then because there wasn't an overabundance of the information that is out here now, which I feel like those that got on the journey when you did, they find it like you guys found it and have had it way easier than these days where we're flooded with try this. It's so hard to allow yourself to trust a process, to go through it for long enough when someone's telling you that you need to eat this many carbs. But carbs make me puffy. They make me fat. They don't work for me. I have to earn my carbs. But there was a spanner in the works. And that was also the fact that you have type 1 diabetes. And there's myths around, no, but you can't eat carbs with type 1. You can't eat carbs with your insulin issues. That's just going to make things worse. And I'm sure that fear also played in your mind. Did that also play into what you believed was possible for your body to achieve? And how did you what was the switching point for you to let go of the progress photos of the scale, and what realizations helped you dismantle those mindsets?
As far as the diabetes go, I was concerned about mostly the nutrition side. I don't think it was much of a concern as far as the physical activity side of it. And definitely because a lot of health professionals were telling me, like, if you want to have the most successful life with diabetes, you will do something like the carnivore, but carnivore wasn't a thing, but keto or paleo, or basically like you do not eat carbs and you manage your diabetes that way. So that was a concern for me, thinking that like, oh, if I take more insulin, somehow that feels like I'm failing. Somehow that feels like I'm not being a good diabetic. But yeah, now it's just like, whatever, screw you. Like, I'm doing awesome. My numbers are awesome. They've improved. They've actually been able to reduce my overall insulin needs on a daily basis because of this, because I'm eating more carbs. So I don't know what the tipping point was. I think maybe when I started seeing results in the mirror and I started seeing muscles start to pop out that I'd never in my life seen before, and didn't think it was even possible for me to have muscles like that. And when I started seeing that, that was a big boost in my confidence in the process and in myself. And that was sort of like, yeah, it's okay. I can let go of control of the rest of this. I don't have to worry about the scale. I don't have to worry about monitoring each and every aspect of this journey. because I'm seeing results now and it's working. And I just, from then on, was like, okay, there's a massive amount of trust, and it doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter, because this was what my goal was this whole time, was to have some muscle and to be fit. And the scale is obviously not telling me that, because I did weigh myself, I think maybe weekly or every couple of weeks, the first little while I was with you, and my weight didn't change at all, but I was seeing the results visually and in my clothes. So I was like, okay, that scale really does mean nothing.
It's funny when you say the scale didn't change, because we only measure success by the scale going down. And some people may experience the scale going up a little in this process of eating more food and eating more carbs because they were so depleted. And in that initial, you're never going to see results in the first 4 weeks of doing anything, because you don't build muscle that fast. But if we over rely on how we think progress should look, you wouldn't be where you are now, because you would have stopped yourself getting to that point where you could see the physical change, which is why I feel like one of the best things that we did was stop you taking the progress photos, because it was like expecting to see changes every week, which is probably what your personal trainer got you to do as well. But when we started, I'll let you talk on that one as well, because I'll compare that to the gym selfies.
Yeah, she would do the pinch test, with like the measuring tape and the calipers, and that was like a weekly thing. And then of course I'm not seeing anything happen other than maybe like it would go up. So yeah. And you were so good about it too. Like, you were very subtle with like taking that stuff away. It was just very quiet. Like, okay, you can't have these for a little while. We'll bring them back at some point, but we're going to put these away for a little while. And I think I'd had enough trust in you at that point. And part of that too was like your attitude with me of like, eye rolling almost, like, oh my gosh, don't start this again. To me, that said, like, okay, there's obviously something I'm not seeing. There's something I'm missing. And I'm going to, let you manage this thing for me. That definitely kind of more dismissive attitude was like, okay, I don't need to worry about this.
It's almost like we give too much credit and too much attention to the things that are glaringly, obviously making us feel like shit. But because it's all that we know, it's become like this safety thing where if I let these go, what's that going to mean for my results? If I let go this thing that I think I've been taught is the only way to measure progress, how are we going to measure progress? But it was in taking the gym selfies that got you more excited about showing up and getting the session done, to the point where you were getting excited about sending me your pull-ups, to going from using bands to not using bands at all, to go from deadlifting just the small plates to then the big plates, to then the big plates with some other plates on top, and then really getting excited about getting stronger. But that is a very hard thing to start to enjoy until you let go of the baggage and I guess the mindset of, I just need to get these fat loss results as fast as possible, and that's all you're focusing on. That shift, I think, was one of the biggest ones for you. But I want to tap more into that, because there was the shrinking of your life that you mentioned, and there was obviously the confidence and the energy that got sucked out of you from that. I want to know how, once you leaned into the process, what is it that you started to notice in your life itself, not just in your body, that made it easier for you to shift your food in that direction? And I guess the fruits and the white carbs and all of that came back in as well. How did you kind of nift those beliefs aside for someone who's still struggling to allow themselves to eat more food, to eat more carbs?
In the beginning, I don't know, physically it wasn't that hard to start eating more carbs. I was like, but it felt like I was cheating. I think because I trusted you enough even early on. I mean, not saying that I didn't still have my doubts, but like, oh, okay, I have a professional telling me that I can do this. Okay, I'm going to do it. Gave me license to eat the carbs I was being prescribed, but it definitely still mentally felt like I was cheating, and felt like, it felt like a food free for all at the time. Like I had bread in my diet early on. I had fruit in my diet early on, starchy vegetables, potatoes, rice. I could suddenly have all these things that I actually love to eat and enjoy eating. And so it definitely felt like a free for all. Same thing. Like when I started to notice the results from it, I had more energy. My lifts were going up regularly where I could push more, and I wasn't exhausted when I left the gym. I had more energy throughout the day. A lot of digestive stuff had improved. And like my quality of life in general was just so much better. And so I guess just like letting go of the scale and letting go of the progress photos, like once I started seeing results, then it was like, okay, this is working. Okay, now I don't need to feel guilty about this anymore. And then it was just like, give me all the carbs. I will eat all the carbs. And even now it's just like, give me more carbs, put more carbs in my diet.
I love that. And this is why I'm like, we need to start a trend of just eat the freaking bread and the bread life. It's almost like you're shrinking your capacity to live your best life for the fact that you think that carbs need to be earned from training really hard or already having your goal weight or your goal body. Then you can eat the carbs. But the part that you mentioned was two things. One, from before, you said this was the goal the whole time. Do you feel like in the process of getting obsessed with what your food should look like, the scales, etc., that you kind of lost sight of what the goal was or what kind of happened there? And then when you mentioned that you had more energy through the day, was it more so that your training was absolutely draining you and then you had no capacity to do anything else? Or was it just low energy state and forcing yourself regardless through the days?
Before I had carbs in my diet, for sure, it was low energy all the time. And then the gym would definitely suck whatever reserves I had left completely out. And yeah, no, it made me cranky, and I didn't have a zest to do anything in life because of that.
This was the goal the whole time. That was a statement you mentioned.
Yes. Yeah, no, that has changed actually. My goal when I first started with you is like, I guess I just had in my mind, I wanted to look like the professional bodybuilders, like the people in the figure competitions, the bikini competitions. And I was like, well, they only get like that by eating, sub 1,000 calories a day. And they only get like that by doing 3 hours of cardio in the gym and a little bit of weights here and there. And so I guess that's just what I'm in for. And that was mostly what I wanted to look like. It hadn't even crossed my mind for strength to be a goal. It was literally just a visual. And I don't want to see pudge anywhere. I don't want to see squish anywhere on my body. So, looking back at that now, of course, that was super unhealthy, super unrealistic. And when you do know about the bodybuilding lifestyle, it's not healthy. It's not sustainable. I look at the women now that I wanted to look like and be like, oh, that sucks. She can't have carbs. Oh, that sucks. She's got to be in the cardio room for hours. Oh my gosh, I would never do that in a million years. I would never want to look like that in a million years. And I guess the goal changed at some point. It wasn't even a conscious thing where I'm just like, I like my body the way that it is. I like that I've got muscle tone. I like that I feel strong. I like that I can impress my husband with how much I can lift. And he tells me all the time, I'm so thankful I have a strong wife to lift all this stuff and show up the guys at work. And that's my pride and joy right now is my strength. It's not even like the fact that I can pull off a bikini and not have squish anywhere. That it's not even a thing anymore.
And now it's pulling off a bikini and actually being confident in that body because you built that body. You know that you can maintain that body. And I feel like a big part of this is it's very hard for us to accept our bodies when we don't feel like we have the control over the results or we're not even enjoying the process. Like we feel like we have to be so strict to maintain some sort of body composition. And if we like do the smallest thing off it, we're going to gain all that fat back, or we're going to just blow up and go backwards. And then we're going to have to do it all again. Was that something that ever popped in your mind there? But also, I do want to caveat this with, if you're not actually seeing the video version of this, Kim, like there was a point in this last 10 minutes where you relaxed a little bit backwards. And I'm like, I can see a little delt. I can see a delt. Like she accidentally, in this process, somehow the body that she envisioned of having muscle tone, of building muscle, of actually looking like someone who trains, which she never in her life once thought was possible, she finally has it. And if you were in the Team Ruby group back in those years as well, when she was still in this process of trying to develop this new identity, which was something that I had to force. And I was, yes, I'm going to use the word force. I was manhandling her. No, I was forcing her to get these selfies into the group. Like, I want to see a selfie after every single session. I want flexes in there. And in that process, she started doing without me even asking. She loved her bicep muscles. It became a contest of how much more defined can I get this bicep now?
Bicep exercise. I would be rushing to the bathroom to pull off my shirt and take pictures while the pump was still strong. So it definitely got to a point where I was just like, zoom and go take pictures. Early on, years ago, this is something that has stuck with me for a really long time. Early on, you used an analogy of building a house brick by brick. And kind of the fitness, health, strength journey is like building a house brick by brick. And if every day that you're doing well with it is like adding another brick to your structure. And so what happens if you don't add a brick one day? That can look like I didn't make it to the gym, but I was supposed to, and maybe I didn't eat as well that day and I should have, or whatever that looks like. Well, you're everything that you've built to date thus far doesn't just implode and explode and you just have to start over from square one again. You just don't lay a brick that day. And so the next day you'll start the brick building again. And that is something I have repeated to myself a number of times since I started with you. Anytime that I missed a day at the gym or maybe didn't push as hard as I could have at the gym, because I used to definitely have that mindset of, I didn't make it to the gym today. I lost all of my progress and I got to start over. And I've got to do 2 hours the next day instead of 1 hour. I got to do 3 hours and I got to cut back, on my calories because I missed a day. And so instead of having that stressor constantly in the back of my mind and the pressure of never failing even a single day, I was constantly reminding myself of what you said, as far as like, the house doesn't fall down. You just don't put a brick down that day. You'll put one down tomorrow. And also not just like that the structure doesn't implode, but that's trying to make up for your sucky day isn't going to help you recover your 2 bricks the next day. Trying to backtrack that, you're not gonna, if you do twice as much the next day and eat half the amount, it doesn't put 2 bricks back there. So it works on both ends, where you're not just destroying your progress, but you're also, don't think that you're going to be able to catch up because you're tightening things up, trying to make up for that lack.
Using that analogy, which I need to start using that one more, because I was very big on my bricklaying analogies. If you try to use extra energy, extra resources to lay those 2 bricks, but in trying to use those extra resources, you haven't given yourself the energy in terms of the food because you're trying to lay those bricks down, that's stealing from the next day and the next day. So while even if you possibly could lay 2 bricks, that could mean that you set yourself back 4 bricks instead of 1 brick the following day.
Yeah.
And that there was something you said there as well, you wanted to also avoid the pudge and the squish. And then on the other end, when I was getting you to do the selfies and you started to really enjoy getting strong, I remember when I put the photos side by side of you at one of the gun ranges, and then on the other side, like, there was a glute.
Okay.
There's a hamstring.
Yeah.
Like, what?
Yeah.
I want to talk a little bit more about that, because I feel like once you started to enjoy the strength component and see those changes, it kind of made you realize that, hey, this is actually what it takes to get lean. While it kind of made like the lean body that you see makes it look like, okay, that's just less. but in fact, it was more strength, more muscle. And now you're seeing the shape that you thought that eating 1,500 calories or 1,000 calories would actually create.
Yeah, no, and it's so ridiculous sounding to hear somebody say it out loud. It's ridiculous sounding. Yeah, eating 1,000 calories a day is not going to give me muscle in any capacity. And seeing the side-by-side photos, I think it was a shock every time you would send me a comparison of what I look like before I started with you versus, current day progress. It was just mind-blowing because, especially if you have the mindset of, I can do this in 2 weeks, I can do this in 4 weeks. You're looking at yourself every day in the mirror and it's just like, man, this is not working. I don't see any changes. I don't see any progress. And then I don't know how long I think maybe it was a year that those photos were spaced apart. And all of a sudden, yeah, there's curves everywhere. There's muscle everywhere. I know my mind was just absolutely blown. Like, I didn't ever think I could look like that. I didn't ever think that I would be happy to be going through the process to look like that. All these things were just contributing more and more to letting go of the mindset of it's got to be immediate, it's got to be miserable, it's got to be strict. And the more I started seeing these results with the photos and everything else, the more it was just like carefree. Like, I can just like live my life and I can eat carbs and I can have fun in the gym and I don't have to do cardio at the gym, and I can be putting heavy ass plates on the barbell and I can look like a hot mama because I got a butt now and because I got curves in my legs now. And it took a year, and I wouldn't trade it for anything. I don't care. I mean, I will take a year with that kind of progress over a 14-day cleanse and lose 15 pounds in your 2-week cleanse. Like, I will take that any day of the week to have that kind of confidence and that kind of strength.
It's funny when you say it that way as well, because I'm listening to this like you didn't even, like, it's not like you just made progress in a year versus 2 months. Like, I worked with you, I got my progress not in 16 weeks, not in 6 months, but after a year, you're still making progress. And that's the part that a lot of people miss. Like, they don't realize that progress is a thing, continues on, because you can't just like achieve a result and then that's it, I got it, move on, because that's going to get lost. And if you can't enjoy the process, if it's miserable on the way there, if it sucks the joy out of you, if it's always chicken, rice, broccoli, if it's going like, it's almost people living from paycheck to paycheck, only it was living cheat day to cheat day. It's like, where's the joy? Because there was also the cheat days. There were all these beliefs that we had to like disentangle. There was also then you weren't even enjoying the training you were doing in the gym because it was just leaving you with less and less energy. Now, saying the energy part, was there a point you were afraid of putting in more effort because you knew how drained it made you feel? Like your body was kind of like, nah, I don't want anything to do with this.
I don't remember ever having those thoughts of being worried that if I work hard in the gym, I'm going to be drained the rest of the day. I mean, I was surprised I could do as much as I did, even in the initial phases. I was surprised I wasn't even lifting that much weight in the beginning, but I was surprised I could like have an entire workout of lifting weights and not feel like I was just going to go, I just wanted to go home and nap. And that's where kind of the diabetes sort of comes in a little bit too, because the weightlifting, my sugar stays much more stable with the weightlifting, whereas cardio, I would have that concern. Like if I'm half hour into a cardio session, like my sugar's gonna tank, which just, then I'm eating sugar and candy and carbs and kind of back down the rabbit hole of like, here goes more carbs, here I'm getting fatter. Why am I even doing cardio? Because I'm just burning sugar and just eating more sugar, and then I'm gonna burn that. And I gotta just this constant, oh my God. So
I have not heard that one before. That part's powerful. I want to dig a little bit more into that, because this is like, it's even more of an apparent case, like having type 1 diabetes. It's more of a, hey, here's like a flag, here's a banner saying this is what happens with insulin issues But typically when people think that it's a cortisol issue or it's an insulin or carb issue, they have PCOS, that it's menopause, it's hormones. You can't really see it on a practical level unless you have a CGM on you, which I don't know why the hell people have CGMs on them if they're not diabetic. Like, there's no point. That's a thing that there's no point worrying about what your insulin does or cortisol does or blood sugar spikes do unless you have a condition that makes it warranted. Regardless of that aside, if you don't have like that glaring fact, people would dismiss the fact that it was actually the weight training, not the burning yourself out with more and more cardio. But if we didn't have the carbs there to help fuel the session, that was when you also made the correlation. Well, maybe not at first, because your body was trying to actually regulate what was going on, because I know that you had a few issues to start with. And then I remember that's when you said that it stabled out, if I remember correctly. So bringing the carbs in and then realizing, hey, I actually need to make sure I eat more carbs before I train, and make sure that I refuel with carbs after I train to make sure that my blood sugars stay steady, where carbs aren't the enemy. They're the supporting tool. It's just that you need to have food timing a lot better, because we needed to sandwich it around the workout, but also the right choice of carbs, where there were the simple carbs, like the white carbs, the bad carbs before you train, and then the complex carbs, because I remember that's when you made that sweet potato concoction after you trained. So tell me a little bit more about that.
Yeah, I am definitely a good case study in like instant pictures of what the body does with carbs and protein and activity because of my diabetes. If I go to the gym and I just have a simple carb like toast and jelly or something like that, I will burn out 20-30 minutes. If I add an egg and have 2 pieces of bread, or I add some peanut butter or something like that, I can get through an hour and 15 piece of cake, no problem. And I'll see like my sugar will spike super hard up when those carbs are actually kicking in, and then it just tanks straight down. But if I add a little bit of protein, a little bit of fat or something to help slow that digestion down, it'll spike up, which is what I want when I'm going to go lift weights. And then it kind of slowly comes down and just stabilizes in a nice straight line this way. So yes, and before I started working with you, I would oftentimes try to go work out with only eating a piece of fruit. So as you can imagine, I didn't last very long, and wanted to go take a nap at like 7 a.m. because all I'd eaten was an apple and then just done an hour of cardio. And couldn't even finish that. And it was horrible. It was awful. So a lot of the nutrition stuff, it's funny because a lot of the nutrition stuff that you've talked about online on Facebook and stuff, and it always piques my interest when you talk about insulin. Because I remember you talked about oatmeal one day being kind of a slower digester in the body. Again, this is where I'm like the perfect case study. Like, okay, I'm going to eat some oatmeal, It doesn't spike the same way that like white bread or fruit or something like that does, to delay when I take my insulin if I eat oatmeal, because it's probably half hour to 45 minutes after I eat that I get that spike the same way I would after 15 minutes from eating a piece of fruit. So, it's kind of fascinating to see it play out in real terms like that. Yeah, it's fun to mess around with it as far as the carbs go. It can be frustrating because with insulin and having diabetes, there's more than just the carbs that affect the blood sugar. How intensely I'm pushing in the gym, how well did I sleep the night before, what kind of stress do I have that day? There are a lot of factors with it, but solidly carbs, protein, it doesn't get any better.
I think a lot of people miss the stress component of all of this. It's always going to come back to what is your baseline of stress like outside of the gym and outside of the diet, because that's going to influence how all of these different inputs then impact the body and how you recover from it. Because if you're not recovering, which stress kind of depletes that and makes you more sensitive to everything else, then you're going to get hit harder with things. And this is why building the baseline of bricks and making sure that it's sturdy and strong It's going to allow you to build a bigger hustle. And everything that we just spoke about is a complete opposite from the start, where you said, I was a complete basket case. Well, now you're a friggin' Wonder Woman carrying a basket. And like that basket is literally loaded with everything and able to carry that. But this is also tying into why fasted workouts, why eating very little while trying to get by on like 1400 calories is actually slowing the metabolism down. It's not that you only maintain on tiny amounts of calories. It's that trying to maintain on tiny amounts of calories leads to you wanting to sleep half the day. Your workouts are shit. You feel like shit. You want to do less. And I actually was going to bring this into now before I go back into how it impacted your confidence, because your relationship, even now being married to someone who actually appreciates you for you, this whole lifestyle has completely changed how you just show up to the world, to stand up for yourself, to create a whole new life for yourself. But just tying back to that part before where you were enjoying the gym, seeing the pump, when we had a little bit of a, well, I'm feeling a little bit icky, stuck, not sure, when you said that to me a month ago or 2 months ago, as soon as we started changing the gym back to let's get that feeling back of chasing the pump, feeling the muscles getting stronger, it's had a complete like new rebirth of love in the gym, where you're pretty much deadlifting the same thing, but completely different. If you compare the photos, the videos, like your legs, you can actually see how much this consistency has changed the shape of your legs. There's lines in your legs still, and it almost just gave you a whole, wait, my body didn't look the way that I thought it did. It just looked that way because I felt a little bit stuck, because I wasn't like focusing on the gym and the food the same way, in a way that I want to feel good. I want to get the pump. I want to chase muscle. And now you're back into that whole love for it again. Talk to me a little bit about that. And then that kind of ties into the confidence that shaped a whole new identity of how you live your life and the relationships you allow into your life.
Yeah. So a couple months ago, for whatever reason, I mean, I don't know if this is normal for a lot of people, but just I got into a little bit of a rut. And part of that was I just wasn't as diligent in tracking my food and making sure I hit every macro down to the gram. When I first started with you, shortly after I started with you, I went through a divorce and was single for a good couple of years. And when you're single, it was awesome, because like literally I had so much time to devote to meal prepping and grocery shopping, and I could stay at the gym kind of however long I wanted to, however long I needed to. And so for me at the time, it was good for the timing, in that because I was brand new with you, it allowed me the time to really kind of settle into a new routine, get kind of comfy in that new routine, figure out how I was going to do it, figure out how it was going to work. And so I was able to just nail it every single day and bring full intensity in the gym. And then a couple of years go by and I get married, and I try and maintain exactly what I was doing before, because obviously it was working. So it's like, I've got to maintain this. With that came just getting married. I just came a completely different life. My husband was a firefighter, and so his schedule was kind of oddball, off the wall. We started a house building business. For a while, we were fostering rescue dogs, which is a full-time job in itself. Just some of the household, like being married, like I got to keep the house clean. I got to meal prep for 2 people, yada, yada. And so my life just looked very different than how it did when I was really able to keep everything super, super tight with my diet and gym. And I know that was kind of when I reached out to you and was just like feeling stuck for sure, and feeling like I was failing because I was not able to invest the same intensity and dedication into the nutrition and the gym. And ironically, I can't remember what the name of what your podcast episode was, but I had been listening to one of your podcast episodes where you were talking about this mindset of feeling as though you are failing, and how it's not failing. You know, you basically, you have to adjust for what your life looks like at the time, and how gym and nutrition should not be this thing that you wrap your life and mold your life around it. You put it into your life and have it mold and conform to what your life looks like. And so that was super helpful for me, because I did feel like I had like temporary mental regression where I thought I was going to just pretty much ruin all of my progress. And it did, a lot of it have to do with the mental aspect of like, okay, I know I'm not putting as much effort into my food prep. I know I'm not hitting my protein every day. I know I'm not getting all of my reps in at the gym. And it was kind of crazy, because as that started to creep into my brain, the more I would look at myself in the mirror, it was just like, oh, yep, there's some more pudge there. It definitely is a little bit squishier there. I can't see as much muscle definition. And whether or not that was actually true, probably not, because we're talking a matter of like a couple of months, not even years or anything. But it was crazy. Looking back at it now, crazy to think how just having that, some of those tickles of that old mindset started to change how I saw myself in the mirror. And the second, yes, when we started trying to focus more on getting that pump back in the gym, which has been helpful, very, very helpful for me. And going through a couple weeks of like feeling that pump and feeling like my muscles all big and stuff, like, okay, nothing changed. And so much of it's a mental game. It's crazy. So much of it's a mental game.
It is. And the fact now that you're realizing that the food doesn't have to look extremely to the T prepped anymore. It's just focusing on, like you mentioned, it's what is one thing that I can just improve right now that can make me feel good with it? What are the big rocks that I can focus on? Fueling my workouts and making sure that I'm having enough carbs through the day. And then there were your little protein hacks, like the protein drink and other things that can make sure that you're getting in things that are good enough. Because once things are good enough, it doesn't need to look like perfection. It just needs to be something that melds into the lifestyle that you're living now. I think that is a really great summary of most of, there is so much of the unpacking. I think most of the journey was the unpacking and the letting go of old beliefs to allow this Kim to shine through. I think a really good, like, tying the bow question would be kind of comparing this carefree relationship that you now have with eating and exercise, not just this physique, this like the physique as a reflection of all the actions that you've stacked, or I should say all the bricks that you've stacked over the years. I never thought that I could be this carefree about my relationship with exercise and food, to a point where I actually trust myself to be in my body, to enjoy the process, and to make it a part of my life, not something that dominates my life. So I want to know more about that emotional journey as kind of like a final takeaway for people, because these days most people are afraid to lean into eating more food, letting go of the dieting mentality, letting go of the scales. The scales are a huge thing, and the weekly progress photos.
Yeah, dude, get rid of the scale, get rid of your camera if you have to. Like, the mental break, it so much of, at least for me, feeling physically good and physically strong and confident and everything else, was so much of it was just getting rid of the scale and the progress photos and focusing on what I needed to focus on. It just took too much mental energy. It took too much mental capacity, having those things constantly niggling in the back of your mind. And it's so great being able, like, we're getting ready to go to Greece here in a couple of weeks. And we've been on a number of vacations since we got married, Mike and I. And it's so great being able to go on vacation and going to have a drink or having a dessert with dinner, and not just stressing myself out about how many calories was that, how much fat was that. Did I have a dessert yesterday too? Okay, what else did I eat today? Can I have this dessert? And just not overthinking everything to the point of, like, I can just enjoy my vacation. And if I gain 5 pounds, I don't care, because when I come back, I know like I have established strong enough foundations and I've established strong enough routines where I can get back into the gym and get back into what I normally eat, and 5 pounds will go away like nothing and I don't care. Or, I was in the hospital a couple of weeks ago too, and I ate a crap ton of food the day after. And normally I would be freaking out and probably trying to get myself on a water diet the next day to make up for all those calories. And now it's just like, whatever, it is what it is. And I'm not saying that in the sense of like, you should be able to go out and eat whatever, whenever you want. It doesn't, none of it matters. Yeah, it does matter, but not, I guess, stressing the minutia. I've been working hard in this gym stuff for 7 years. And if I want to go on a 2-week vacation and have dessert every other day, I'm going to do it, unless I notice like, oh, I'm really sluggish the next day and I don't feel so good. Yeah. Or like I'm super bloated the next day, which means like I'm not hungry and I can't eat my protein at breakfast, stuff like that. Sure. Okay. Then I just won't have dessert. But it's like, I feel good about the choice as opposed to like, crap, I can't have dessert because even though I really want it, like I can't do it because I'm going to get fat. When you look at those two things, it's the same thing. Do I eat the dessert or do I not eat the dessert? But it's the mentality behind it of like, I can't eat the dessert because I'm going to get fat by tomorrow, or I can't eat the dessert because I feel really sluggish the next day and I want to be able to go and walk 13 miles around Athens and not worry about what my tummy is doing because it's all messed up from whatever I ate the night before.
I love that. No, I was going to say, I love that because a lot of people feel like these choices, all of this, it's restriction, it's obsession. But if you think about the way that the majority of people live their lives, it's low energy, it's sluggish, their digestion is crap. Most people don't even crap like for 3 days at a time. And then they finally use the toilet. Like it's amazing to feel on this other side where you have this energy, where you can lean into the trust that you're going to do the things because you found a joy in it. It's not, I have to go and slug away at the gym again when I get back. No, it's, I get to feel empowered in it again because it makes me feel good. It makes me feel like my best self, and I'm able to show up to my busy schedule with a higher level of energy because I'm eating enough food. I can show up to my husband. I can do this house building thing. I can do the dogs because I'm actually treating myself like a human being, not a trash can or a deprived child or what.
A robot where it's just like consistent in and out, in and out, in and out, like just the same thing every day, all the time. And you should expect to get the same results every single day.
I love that. I'm really excited to see how we go with Athens as well, and Greece, and enjoying all of that because you really do love your vacations. And the last one you went on, I think that was the Hawaii one. That was really hard to get back into the routine of things because that had a lot of tricky stuff around it that threw your routine before Hawaii to start with, from what I can recall, because there was like the house building thing and then there was something else that popped up before it. But now we've actually established a lot of consistency going into it, and we're starting to get some strong ass deadlifts happening, and the pull-ups, the feedback, you took on the feedback like a pro. You're actually feeling your abs in your pull-ups now, and that feels amazing, doesn't it?
It's awesome. I will chase that more than, one of the things I did struggle with early on too was like, I gotta add numbers to the barbell every week or whatever. And that became like my new obsession for a short while. It's just like, the more numbers I can put on the barbell, the better. But now it's chasing how my muscles feel. And like, okay, I will literally like close my eyes while I'm doing something so I can focus on the muscle that needs to be working, the bracing, especially movements like deadlifts where your lats need to get involved. I got to think about those. And it's just, that is like the best feeling ever when you get it all working together synergistically. And it's like, it's awesome. It's just so awesome.
I love that. I reckon that is something that can be a tangible takeaway for everyone listening to this, because when you start to chase what makes you feel good, you'll start to want to keep doing those things, and you'll realize that the way you were living wasn't actually living. It was just something that was comfortable. Well, not, it wasn't even comfortable. It was just something that you clung to because the fear of doing anything else was overwhelming for you. You didn't trust yourself to eat more. You can't trust yourself to eat carbs and to do this process because what happens if? What happens if? But the thing that made Kim stand out from all of this is that she realized that she had to lean into the process, that there was no other way because she felt like ass as it was. And I think that's a really powerful message to leave anyone. Is there any other practical things that you could tell someone who's scared of trusting the carbs?
Just try it. What do you have to lose? When you've exhausted every other option, yeah, what do you have to lose? As a diabetic, carbs are not supposed to help me. As living my life for a number of years, thinking that carbs were going to some way, somehow hurt me. I tried it and there's no going back. So just give it a chance. You got nothing to lose. If it doesn't work for you, you can go back to being miserable and shitty.
That last bit, there we go. So it's up to you. You can stay going through life on low energy mode, or you can choose to live your best life on the other side, because carbs aren't earned. There's something that give you the ability to live your best life. So if you guys connected with any of this, I'm sure Kim will be more than happy to message you any words of support, because it is a hard process. And I know that it also reinforces just how far she has come every time she talks about this, because the pride that you have on your face for the work that you put into this, just seeing you light up talking about the effort, the trust that you had to have in the process, realizing, holy shit, I actually did this. Like, I'm actually going to enjoy this holiday. I'm enjoying my life. I have a husband that loves me. I have a business that I thrive in, and I'm loving my everyday. Like, I can see it on your face, and I love it. And I want other people to be able to experience life the level that you all deserve to have this. And it's so hard to do if you don't yet start with believing that you can, and just trusting that you might have had a shit coach before. You might have had a shit trainer, maybe 2 or 3 that let you down. But trusting again, but actually making a better choice would probably be a really good thing to add in there as well. But just trusting again and knowing that you can, if you let go, you will. But you'll hear me on the next episode. And if this resonated with you, reach out to me as well. Let's have a chat, and you'll hear me on the next podcast.